Next on our checklist is checking out the neighborhood. It was important for us to do some investigative work, and who better to find out information from than the neighbors? We went around and got the scoop on where we might be living. Stay tuned to find out what we discovered. So today we went to the neighborhood where we might potentially build. And I have to admit, I was pretty intimidated. It's always a kind of scary thing when you're going to someone's house just kind of coldly. They don't know you, tend to think you're Jehovah's Witnesses. One person actually said that. But just not knowing how people would react. But I have to tell you, we were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, so we got invited into two of the houses. We had nice conversations with the potential neighbors, but all of them that answered their door were great people, and we were excited to talk with them. Really.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely a good experience. It definitely put my mind at ease. And I'm just going to put this out there for me, just knowing that we were moving into an area that was predominantly white, and I'm so used to having lived in a diverse area for such a long period of time. One of my fears was, would people be racist? Would they be intimidated by people of other races? And again, I was just so thankful that that wasn't even an issue. Everybody we came across welcomed us with open arms, and even beyond that, like Ross said, to the point of inviting us into their homes. So that was a joy, just to know the people we would be living around were gracious, and were really wishing us luck and hoping that things worked out for the build.
It was nice to see that our kids might have some kids to play with and hang out with. One family had children that were high school and middle school age. The one woman across the street, she's a grandmother, and she said that her grandchildren are always over her house during the summertime. And then another family had older children, so younger families, people that we could connect with that are at least in some degree in similar phases of life. And just that was important to me, that our kids would have some kids to play with that weren't, we're going to a more rural area. So we wouldn't have to drive to see kids of similar age. It sounds like maybe just right across the street they might have some friends they can play with.
Yeah. And so Ross said that was important to him as far as the relational part and who we'd be living around. And it was, and it is. But there are also some other things he was kind of sleuthing over. So
Yeah.
talk about those things.
Yeah, we wanted to know about specific things about the surrounding property that might be similar to our property. So we'd asked about the drainage. Do they have any issues with water in their basements? One house, well, basically all the houses to some degree had some issues, but they were all kind of minor issues that kind of cropped up every once in a while. They weren't really persistent chronic issues that we'd have to really be concerned about. And with a newer home, we might have those same kind of issues. We might not. All really depends. And for us, we kind of planned on having an unfinished basement to start off with anyway. So we'll find out as we go. And if we want to develop it into something a little bit more, we will. And if not, then we could use it for a number of things still useful to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing was the depth of their wells. One neighbor knew that theirs was deep. One neighbor knew that theirs was shallow, and they had various reasons for why they had that. And then the third neighbor, they really didn't have an idea. Their husband wasn't home. They felt like their husband knew more about that. But seems like it's such a random thing. One neighbor might have one that's deep, and like we found one might be shallow. It's so hard to tell what ours might be like. Yeah. So we didn't really learn much from that, but at least we knew that there's water in the area, and it shouldn't be too much trouble getting a well dug and implemented in our house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so great information that we discovered today. I know one other thing too that stuck out was the one woman who we had talked to knew something about the landowners, and she had said that the people who were looking to buy land from was a grandmother and a granddaughter, and the grandmother died unexpectedly. So the granddaughter, I guess they were going to live together, and this was too much land for the granddaughter to hold on to, and so that's why she was looking to sell. So that's kind of exciting to us because we're hoping that that plays in our favor, that she's looking to get rid of this land soon, and hopefully, Lord willing, the offer that we submit would be, one that she'd accept, even if it's not the asking price. So that was helpful to know.
One more thing I forgot to mention, we talked to them about power outages too. With the wetness issue, we want to make sure that we don't have power outages in case we're relying on a sump pump to keep our basement dry. It seemed like that wasn't a factor, but I'm glad we investigated. They really said there really weren't power outages for more than a couple hours, except for a major winter storm that came through a number of years ago. But that was kind of the exception. The one widow who had been there for 25, 30 years said, really that was the only time she can think of that they had major power outages. So that's comforting to know that, if we have to rely on a sump pump to keep our basement dry, then it won't be an issue.
Yeah, definitely grateful for this time. It gives me hope just to have met the neighbors, and just also thinking about, I don't know that 20 years ago we would have thought of this. I know we didn't really come around. We didn't really take the time to meet the neighbors when we moved to this house. It just wasn't something that was on our mind. But just in our research, it's something that we had come across that it's a good idea, to get to know the neighborhood, talk to the neighbors, see if they're people you can live around, as well as see if the neighborhood has any kind of hidden surprises that, may catch you by surprise once you're already homeowners in there. So it's an important step.
And all of them kind of ended our conversations with, "Oh, we're excited, and hopefully you can move in," which helped us to also be excited that that they're welcoming us, even though we haven't bought the land, we haven't built anything, but seem very welcoming kind of people.
Most definitely. So another check in the checkbox. For me, this gets me more excited. Ross asked me where this moved me up to today, because at one point he was asking me with this whole build, where am I at? And I think I started out as a 5 or 6 maybe, and I told him I was at a 10. And he said, it was kind of like, well, how is that possible? We're not even, quite there yet. And for me, it's a 10 pending some things that we have to find out about the land. So still keeping things in prayer, trusting that it's all in the Lord's hands. But again, just another great, exciting step on the way to building.
Glad you could join us this time. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Looking forward to hearing from you, and see you sometime soon.